Yesterday, I got a photo from Tony Roberts at Analog Toys. We message a lot. He showed me an image from Jada Toys of a Ghostbusters Ecto-1 as a monster truck. And at that point, I said to him, nostalgia is dead. We are at the end of nostalgia at this point. And Tony laughed, and I walked away thinking about it for a minute, and then I came back to the message thread, and I said, this is just like how Loyal Subjects has just gotten done with their wave of mask reissues, and now they're already claiming a celebration of the 40th anniversary with the same toys over again, just in black with gold accents. Which I don't know what that has to do with the 40th anniversary of Mask. It seems like the definition of shameless cash grab to me. And I get that for some reason Hasbro wouldn't let them use the names of half the vehicles, so it's like, can't call it the Switchblade, you gotta call it high-tech helicopter. You can't use the word rhino. I don't know why these words are even copyrighted somewhere. I wouldn't think they are. Maybe Hasbro thinks that Switchblade now has a dangerous connotation for a knife, and they don't want to mention rhinos because they're almost extinct or something. I don't know, but the whole black gold thing instantly coming out with a price premium point on it as an instant double dip. And I see all these people excited about it. And look, I'm not sitting here wanting to get into this whole argument about gatekeeping, all right? The way I look at it, gatekeeping is when you actually can prevent someone from being part of a group or buying a thing. And I've never had the ability nor wanted the ability to do neither. So anybody that wants to sit there and throw the word gatekeeper at me, you're an idiot. Sit down in the back and listen and learn something. So I told Tony, I was like, this makes no sense to me. And he was like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me either. And I thought about it even more, the words that had come out of my mouth just a few minutes prior to that exchange, where I said, you know, we have reached the end of nostalgia. We know for a fact, because there have been multiple articles written about it in the major financial trades at this point, with quotes from the toy industry CEOs, and it's something that the observant among us knew many years ahead of it finally being admitted to. Some people were confused about that, but those of us who actually had operating eyes and could, draw conclusions from what we observed, we were ready to pick up on this, is that the toy industry, especially with action figures, has been nostalgia targeting adults for a very long time. And I thought to myself, is this where we've come? Is this the moment where these companies aren't even trying to hide the strategy, the tired tactic of take a long-standing, worn-out 80s IP logo, let's take Ghostbusters, and just slap it on a monster truck. Oh yeah, sure, we'll put the Ecto-1 chassis on it to make it look like we were thinking about it, but we weren't. And they're confident in putting that out that it's going to sell.
So,
it's stupid. It's annoying.
Similarly, Loyal Subjects, who are subletting Mask from Hasbro, because Hasbro itself doesn't have any confidence in that brand. They're not going to do anything with it, just like all the other IPs they've bought up when they acquired all these toy companies over the years. They're just letting them sit in the big Indiana Jones warehouse full of crates that are collecting dust. But if you go to them as a starving, hungry toy company that wants to get their foot in the door, and you hand them a big enough check, they're happy to let you go twist in the wind with one of their unsupported dead IPs. Make all the tribute toys you want. Bankrupt yourself doing that as long as we get our check. Because it's no risk to them. And that's not even me criticizing Hasbro. That right there is just, hey, if they don't believe in it, but they're not going to let go of ownership of it, They're only going to rent it to you. And they're not even going to let you use the names of the damn things. Why are you out there doing that? And then immediately double dipping with black and gold variants, calling it the anniversary editions. All I can point to is that whether we're talking about the Ghostbusters monster truck or the 40th anniversary series of mask toys, which are just recolors of the same toys we just got, they're confident that adult collectors will jump at this stuff. And to me, that's the saddest indictment of it all.
My God, we used to make fun of guys who bought crap like this.
There was a time when collecting was just getting started in the early 90s, where we started to see toys as not just something we played with when we were kids, but something that was worth collecting as adults. We were rapidly getting to the point where certain lines, very specifically Star Wars, were no longer something that as adults we were going to run away from. We wanted to collect them and proudly say, yeah, I collected the entire range of Star Wars toys, or G.I. Joe, or what have you, Transformers. And it started with Star Wars. And 1992, 93, somewhere around there, Bendums and Topps trading cards colluded on the first Star Wars character toys since Kenner. And they were mock-worthy. They were so bad. And they still are. And we used to make fun of those toys, and still do. You don't see them really going for hot dollars on eBay, to my knowledge. And the people that did collect them always collected them with a firm tongue in their cheek. They knew that they were going to get joshed by the rest of the guys on the forum or whatever, and they knew that they were kind of taking the piss, showing off their complete Bendums collection. But somewhere along the way, and I don't know if it's necessarily generational, it might not be, it might just be the very types of people who are ride or die adult toy collectors. Maybe they're all a little bit tweaked, a little bit emotionally stunted, those ones at the extreme end. Maybe they're a little bit immature and unhinged or whatever. They've lost that filter, if they ever had it. If they never had the filter, then they've become dominant in the space. And that to me is really frightening, because it's no longer, yeah, we're collecting toys and we know that that will come with a certain level of dignity hit to our dating life or whatever, but we're confident that we're collecting stuff that's really interesting and really worth it, and we're not embarrassed to say, yeah, I've got a whole set of these, or, you know, whatever. It seems like somewhere along the way, the people who were all about hype and all about the feels and all about just seeing their favorite logo stamped on anything, logo junkies, logo addicts, they took over the space. They took over what some people call the hobby. They dominated the community, and they're still here, and they're still on top. And I don't want to hear any quotes in the comments about how the rest of us feel like bottoms, okay? That's not what I meant by the top. I'm about to explain. So just save your jokes for the end. There are a number of people in this community who are true influencers just by their size, meaning the size of their audience. And they exhibit some of the most troubling behavior that I feel dovetails with where the toy companies have gone. It's not a conspiracy. It's just marketing research. There's no longer a mature respect for the adult collector in the mix. I firmly believe that around the late 2000s, when Hasbro was really pushing the Star Wars Legacy Collection scale vehicles like this AT-AT behind me, they were truly threading the needle between things that were exciting for kids, but also really, really enticing for adults to collect as well. They had found that balance beam between the two. And then very rapidly after that, starting about 2011, as they stopped caring about good distribution and just fell into a nightmare scenario with their customers, they quickly started going after adult dollars in ways that, after a certain point, only the most hopelessly shameless and pathetic amongst us kept laying their dollars down for this stuff. But if they're making the sales, then what does it matter? But one would hope that as a generation gets older, meaning the sum of the generation gets older collectively, that the natural process of aging and maturity would kick in somewhere. And that common sense would manifest. And we, as a buying group, would not only be more vocal with the companies that want to part us from our money. In other words, I'll part with my money, but you've got to treat me with some amount of dignity in the products you're offering and the prices that you stick on them, and give me the things that I think are worth buying. In other words, I still see it as a respectable use of my money. The closest thing that Hasbro has done to that recently, but unfortunately they succeeded in one area with me but failed in the other, and that was with the Darth Vader TIE Fighter. I think it's a beautiful looking vehicle. But when I saw the price, I was like, wow, Hasbro really thinks they can just get away with anything now. And they're confident that adults will buy it because they didn't even try to make it a crowd fund, which I'm not advocating they should. I'm saying that in their dirty world, they were like, this'll sell like that. $140 TIE Fighter? And they were just like, yep, don't even need to test the water on that. Just put that out there. They'll run to it like barracudas. They'll eat that up. I like the way the product ended up looking. I think it looks spectacular, but I'm not going to pay $140 for a TIE Fighter. And I would have bought that one had the price been more reasonable. Absolutely would have. But when you consider that, and everyone's going to say, oh, well, it's not 2019 anymore, Michael, COVID and tariffs and whatever. But I can't justify spending 140, 150 plus shipping on a TIE Fighter when the sail barge was only $400. I mean, you're getting a lot less toy for a lot more money there. But they believe, and they've done the market research, that'll sell. No problem. And more of the things that are suitable target items for adults for these nostalgia lines are getting increasingly put behind exclusivity walls, online portals, and you can only get this from Hasbro Pulse. You can only get these from Mattel Creations. And all the stuff we're putting out on store shelves, it's like, ugh. Like, all the stuff I want is at a premium. Most of it's sold out within minutes. And it's all behind those paywalls. So, if we had collectively gotten more mature as a buying public, then we would be more vocal and more of these things would, I think more of these things would fail. But there's so many people who have the fear of missing out, and they're so susceptible to hype and marketing, and they want to keep up with the Joneses with the latest and greatest thing, whatever the cost. Cost is no barrier. I would have hoped that we would have matured up, but the leaders in this community, the people who are the most influential, as they've gotten older, they have not exhibited more wisdom. They have not exhibited more leadership. They have gotten worse. You have only but to look at the situation at San Diego Comic-Con, where one of the biggest toy YouTubers in the space, Shartimus, before a panel just got up in the middle of the audience and started screaming at people who were also in the audience. And the Robin to his Batman, Boog, he and that Joker, or I know I just said Batman, Robin, and then Joker. I didn't mean the literal Joker. He and that goofus, they went outside into the hallway and tried to get into a physical confrontation. They got verbally aggressive and were closing physical proximities, trying to intimidate these people. Now, I don't really care what their beef is. Beefs happen all the time. I'm not one of those people that believes that everybody should get along all the time. That's just unrealistic. Just as much as I don't believe that you can be positive all the time, because I think that's also a fallacy. I get that conflicts are going to happen. That's life. That's reality. That's being an adult and recognizing in an adult way that life is not perfect and hardly ever will be. But where I draw the line is, okay, people aren't going to get along. People need to accept it rather than do what Shartimus and Boog did at San Diego Comic-Con. And they are self-described leaders of this community. They see themselves as trendsetters and decision makers, deciders of the way things should go in this community. Now, nobody asked them to do that. A lot of us don't even want them in those roles. They assert themselves in that fashion, overtly, as you can see at San Diego Comic-Con this past few weeks. Which they then went on to regale those tales of their misadventures on their own live streams. They're the people that are going to buy the very next thing from all these different toy companies, if they're buying them at all. And I'm not trying to get into the whole thing about, are you a hype man for a company or are you a shill or anything like that. That's a separate issue that we've already gone round and round on, and there's no point in bringing that up again. What I'm talking about is, if they're going to say that they're leaders, or I should say, they've said it sort of, but let's use another term. If they're going to act like they're the leaders, and they're going to act like they're the ones in charge, and they're going to act like everybody should do what they say, because they really have control issues with people, as evidenced by the fact that they were willing to cause a scene, a verbal, potentially physical altercation at the biggest pop culture convention in America, because that shows adult toy collectors in a great light, doesn't it? Some of the most prominent, like Shartimus, doing stuff like that, that really puts all of us in a good light with the general public. That's great. If they're gonna be self-described leaders and they want us to step in line with anything that they think is the way to be in the toy world, the toy collector space, then they really shouldn't be acting like that. Even when they have disagreements with people, you don't deal with disagreements with people aggressively in public, surrounded where you're grandstanding. But that shows a complete lack of maturity. And it's the lack of maturity that I think is endemic right now in adult toy collecting writ large. And if you're wondering how I could make claims like, well, you don't know that, Michael. You don't know that Shartimus wants to control, how other people collect toys, or how the toy collecting community, operates, and how everybody should behave. Yes, I do. because I happened to be in a 3.5 hour call with that wacko. Never spoken to the guy before. This was several years ago. Never spoken to him, never met him, never spoken about him. And he went at me publicly on social media over something where he thought I was dog whistling him. And you guys know me well enough to know I don't dog whistle anybody. I go right at them. And not often. Not as often as people like to claim my reputation is. But you know what reputations are. Reputations are the things people who are too lazy to go get to know the person themselves lean on so they don't have to go get to know the person themselves. Well, I've had first-hand experience with both Boog and Shartimus. And with Shartimus, I had 3.5 hours of live, real-time video call experience. I'm not going to, sit here and waste your time giving you everything anecdotally. I'll just put it this way. I have all 3.5 hours recorded. Video and audio.
I remember when I first found your channel, I thought to myself, oh my God, this person is the exact opposite of everything I wanted to be on YouTube. Just the fact is that that's where you're at. You have my respect. I think you're a legit collector. But if you're to say, most of the time, that's not the version I see. I don't see that happy face on your channel much at all. I wish I could see it more.
Okay, but here's the thing: if you're that happy all the time on YouTube about everything, no, I don't mean you. I'm saying the general you. If the general content creator is that happy all the time about everything they make, then it becomes white noise. Because
nobody wants that. Nobody's asking for that.
Then what
Nobody
is it?
needs somebody happy all
but
the
you just
time.
complain. You just kind of complained you had to dig for that because that's what you wanted.
I don't want to dig for it. I don't want to dig for it.
You don't want it all the time, but you don't want to dig for it. So which is it, Russ? Like, is it?
Does it have to be one or the other?
Well, apparently it does because you're using it as a criticism against me. So, like, you need to define.
Have to be one or the other, though. That's what I'm saying. Is I would like a better blend of the two. Would be nice.
But it's my channel, not yours. My joy.
It's my personal preference, of course.
Okay, my joy comes from turning the Rubik's Cube on things. I get a joy out of looking at something 100 ways and commenting on its good points and its bad points, making some sarcastic jokes, having some fun with it. That's how I enjoy making content. Yeah, I know. I don't collect.
But when you do talk about the stuff I collect, how often is it in celebration of collecting like those other videos? You know what I mean?
Well, you collect a lot of Marvel stuff.
You
collect a lot of Marvel stuff, and you've never watched any of my Marvel Legends stuff, which doesn't have any complaints in it for the most part. I mean, you and I don't cross paths, Shart, which is why it's so unfortunate that after 11 years on YouTube, you finally send up a flare about me, and it's like, liar! And it's like, dude, I was content to just not be in the club, but I definitely don't want to be in the club now. Damn. Like, shit. I mean, I just crossed after almost 11 years, I finally crossed 100,000 subs 72 hours ago. And then 72 hours later, one of the biggest guys in the world in this community calls me a liar. That's going to be helpful. Thanks a lot. Like, I got my own problems with this whole situation as well. Like, you going off half-cocked on a video that doesn't name you and doesn't have anything to do with you and is talking about Hasbro Mattel, that ain't helpful for the community either. And I'm sitting here right now having stayed up till past midnight to conform to your schedule to solve this problem, and you're still sitting there grilling me.
That's a lie. I just watched you lie. I just watched you fucking lie. You didn't have to stay up this late and conform to my schedule. I was going to do this tomorrow. I did not.
Hold on.
That is a lie.
Russ.
You didn't have to conform to this.
Russ, relax, man.
What the hell?
Just lied right there.
What is wrong with you?
Russ, let me talk.
I don't have to back up my claims with, some sort of flimsy evidence. I have the entire record, and I'm not and would not be hesitant to put it all out there unedited, because I ain't worried about anything that I'm saying in any video space especially when I'm talking to someone who's really going at me. But he made it very clear to me that I was everything that he didn't want in toy collecting. And when you talk like that to people you've never met before in a public forum, meaning like toy collecting is a public forum. We were talking privately, but toy collecting itself is a public forum. There's no membership fee to join. There's no country club. It's really disturbing. It's disturbing to see the chips on the shoulders and how the egos run amok. And what's really sad about it is they get to set the precedent as to how everybody views everyone else. There are other top dogs in toy collecting on social media that we're all aware of, and they tend to silo themselves at the top of ivory towers and not really associate with the peasantry. That in and of itself is its own problem, but at least they're not causing problems. But in this case, I really see this as a scenario where we're reaching the end of nostalgia for toy makers. But our community has taken us there because of the overt lack of maturity, the demonstrative, the word I'm looking for here is, I don't want to use psychosis, but the demonstrative instability of people in this space, both in the comment sections of various social media portals, which is rampant, and also, unfortunately, at the very top of the food chain. And even if somebody like that never said they wanted to be the top dog, never said they wanted to be the leader, never said they wanted to control everything, even if those words had never come from a guy like him, being at that top spot means that he does set the tone for how people behave, and he could steer it in a better direction. I personally was at the show where Shartimus harassed a vendor. Shartimus harassed the Valaverse booth multiple times at Joe Lanta. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. Time flies when things suck. But he then turned around and kept coming up to Bobby Vala's booth and harassing him, yelling at him, doing the same thing he did at San Diego Comic-Con, trying to manically control something about Bobby that he didn't like. Unfortunately, the owner of the new owner of Toylanta, he decided that the solution for that for the next year or the next show was to not invite the vendor back, but invite back the guy who caused public problems out of nowhere for the vendor. He blamed the vendor because he wants to be chummy with Shartimus. And that's what I'm talking about when I say that these people have influence. I mean, it's been made very clear to me, and this is my local toy show that I've been going to for over 15 years. I go, I buy my ticket, I shop, I talk to people. It's always a nice time. Until this guy took over. And I wondered why I was suddenly being given such a hard time by this guy at the shows. And then when I found out the Shartimus connection, and I realized, oh, he's another one like Shartimus who's risen to the top. The crazy gets to the top in our circle. And that ain't good.
And I'm asking you guys, if you are able to, is to contribute in some kind of way financially. I have a crowdfunding page in the description below. You can go there. That will help me take time away from posting videos. I still ask for you to join Team Shartimus on Patreon because I need a team behind me, and I'm grateful for the 170 people that are on there right now. But it's just not enough. And if you're a minor, show the channel to your parents. I mean, how do you pay for your figures? Your parents buy them for you. How did you get that Xbox or that PlayStation? Your parents bought it for you. Well, ask your parents to see if they're interested in helping support this channel.
What the hell?
Just lied right there.
What is wrong with you?
So the way I look at it, when Tony at Analog Toys said a few months back, or maybe it was last year, that he was kind of done with modern toys and was trying to get out of it, I was like, yeah, I can understand that. I can really understand that. And as of right now, the last few weeks, I've set up an entire sort of eBay and selling system where I'm liquidating most of the modern toys from my collection because I don't have much interest in talking about them anymore because it puts you in the same arenas with people who cause so much trouble. Do I still want to collect for myself? Yeah. Is it more vintage and vintage related focus? Probably will be. Will I still be doing toy reviews? Absolutely. I'll still be doing toy videos about vintage lines and everything like that, just like Tony at Analog Toys does. I'm working on one right now. But the landscape has changed, and the toy makers themselves, the toy industry, they have scraped below the bottom of the barrel for the last most ridiculous things they can put logos on or slap a repaint on and throw it at us and ask us for another $150. All the while, they're going to keep raising prices. They're going to keep leaning into AI. They're going to keep firing more and more humans from their industry. And I'm starting to see less and less and less of a point of supporting an industry like that empowers and enables people like Shartimus. I'm at a point where I wish we could remember what we all thought when we knew a friend of ours was about to buy $40 worth of Bendums. I wish we could get back to that on some level. Because it's not gatekeeping. It's not gatekeeping when you can't prevent somebody, nor do you want to prevent somebody from buying something dumb. And you're not trying to control anybody. But somewhere along the way, we empowered gatekeepers like Shartimus and accused other people who were just joshing us of gatekeeping. It's okay to literally try to control us. But it's not okay anymore to have a good-natured, joke at your friend or somebody in the community about why are you buying something that stupid. You really going to support that? Come on. It's a bizarro universe, everybody, and we are all in some sort of glitched matrix. Down is up is down, dogs and cats are living together. I don't know anymore. But I really, after seeing the Ghostbusters monster truck and seeing the loyal subjects immediately lean right into repaints on the toys they just brought out, on the heels of Shartimus and Boog's antics at San Diego Comic-Con, it made the decision for me. Yeah. I realize what's important. and I realize what's in perspective. And right now, the toy community, the adult toy collecting community, has not only lost the plot, they've lost their minds.
Is this oligarchical bullshit that we're living under, and we have absolutely no control. We live in a feudalistic society here, man. These motherfuckers have this whole game played and wired to the point where they've all agreed to upcharge the out of everything they can all at once, blaming it on this global pandemic.
So why are we buying into their HasLabs then?
I like toys.
Did you ever reach a point in your life where you say to yourself, this is the best I'm ever gonna look, the best I'm ever gonna feel, the best I'm ever gonna do, and it ain't that great?